Welcome to Warframe, a game all about putting on a new suit, which essentially is a new class, and doing one of two things, killing everything in your path, or killing everything in your path with some tact. I had the brainiac idea a while ago of covering every frame in Warframe as a strategy to push myself to get every frame, and today we're going to start that journey. Today we're going to be looking at the first frame that most players will farm off of the Jackal, Rhino. Rhino is interesting because although he may be the first frame that you are able to farm out, given the first boss you can get to drops his parts, he is also one of the most fun and versatile. He's got some buffing power, some damage, some CC, some survivability. Seriously, what didn't DE give this guy? But to their credit, they did a good job at exposing you to a reliable frame as what is your first frame that you can really aspire to get. Excalibur, Volt, and Mag all have the caveat to being the first frame that you get, but not necessarily very strong. Rhino, on the other hand, being that you have to actually try to get him, is actually a really versatile frame for the time that you're going to be putting into actually receiving this frame. So without further ado, let's look at his abilities. Let's start with Rhino's first ability, Rhinocharge. For just 25 energy, you can turn yourself and whatever poor bastard that stepped into the line of sight into a projectile missile, ragdolling them into the next tile set with your dash. If you want me to be honest, this ability is fun for ragdolling enemies, but it's fairly impractical. Generally speaking, unless you're dealing with incredibly strong enemies, Rhinocharge is just a movement ability with some fun meme potential. Unless you have his augment that you can get off of one of the syndicates, which allows you to charge up your shield, which is your second ability, which we'll get into in a bit. Rhinocharge has some decent damage attached to it, but nothing incredible, which means that you're going to want to use this purely for CC and movement. And to just move, with how quick and fast-paced movement is in Warframe, it isn't really the best thing. You can tell that this ability was designed a long time ago, given he was one of the first frames released, and his age definitely shows in his kit. His second ability is kind of the ability that everyone looks at when they say Rhino's ability. And here's when I want to make a clarification. A lot of frames I'm going to be going over in this series have an ability that almost defines them. This just so happens to be Rhino's. That does not mean that it's a bad ability. If anything, it means that it's the strongest ability on him, but I also don't necessarily agree with that. Iron Skin, Rhino's second ability, turns you into an undamageable tank for 3 seconds, then gives you additional invuln equal to 3 things: the amount of damage you took within your 3 seconds of being undamageable, the armor that is attached to your frame, and the ability strength that you've modded onto your frame. Without taking any damage, you can easily get the shield to around 8,000 with mods, and with damage, the sky is literally the limit. I myself have seen Rhino Shield hit 6 digits when I'm in a Stalker or a high-end boss fight, and I'm not even that good at the game. Iron Skin is legitimately a perfect new player ability, because if you get yourself into a jam, you can pop Iron Skin, soak a bunch of damage, and then have a decent shield to be able to stop any further incoming damage until you can reset yourself. It can also be used at the start of a mission when you originally load in. Pop your Iron Skin to make sure that your health doesn't deplete from enemies pelting you with bullets. It's a great panic button, it's a great boss starter. Overall, just a really strong ability. His third ability, Rhino Roar, is a buff to himself and allies, which is incredibly useful. And when I'm in a mission with a Rhino and I see that ability with anything longer than 30 seconds on my buff bar, I practically want to get on my knees and give him the best night of his life. I'm talking a 50% strength buff on a tanking frame at base. You already want to build power strength because of the Iron Skin. Now compound this, like why would you not? Not to mention this is his Helmet ability, a system implemented to add customization to frames, which means that you can put this on anyone after you feed him to the big old wall fleshlight. Last but not least, we have his fourth ability, Rhino Stomp, and that's literally what he does. He stomps on the ground. But not only does he stomp on the ground, he stomps on the ground so hard he legitimately freezes time for any enemy caught in the wave. It's kind of nutty. This ability deals a decent amount of damage, but is most useful for, well, yeah, that. Honestly, Rhino has so much versatility, it's surprised that more people don't run him. You get in a sticky situation, pop your shield, or if you already have your shield, you're just worried about getting killed after it runs out, stomp the ground, get yourself to safety. Honestly, just so versatile and so good in so many ways. So for builds, I really only have two builds in mind for Rhino. One is a thick skin and one is a hybrid. The thick skin is really good for newer players because it allows you to just pop your shield, not have to damage soak a lot of damage in order to get a strong shield. However, with the hybrid build, you actually need to take a little bit more damage during that 3-second invulnerability to make sure your shield is still up to snuff, but you have a decent amount of power attached to it because you still want to be buffing your allies for a decent amount. When you go into negative power strength on Rhino, it feels really bad because your Iron Skin doesn't do a lot and your Roar doesn't do a lot. So you want to really focus on making sure that you have a decent amount of power strength. I recommend anywhere above 150%. It seems about right. And due to the fact that the hybrid build has a decent amount of range and a decent amount of duration, you can also use your Stomp to CC an entire tile set and then allow your teammates, who you've just turned into literal gods because of your buff, to clear the rest of the tile set, even if you are struggling. In closing, Rhino is a really good frame for the ability to farm him out at the start, and I heavily recommend anyone who just recently picked up this game to go and farm Rhino. There's really no reason not to, because even if you get the frame and then you don't like it, you can just feed it to the helmet later and then potentially use Rhino Roar on another frame like I've done. Or if you really like the frame, you can invest in it, put some formas in, and it turns into a really, really tanky frame. I want to thank you all for watching. I will definitely be doing more of these because I had a lot of fun making this video, even though I hate hearing my own voice, and that's essentially all this video was me talking. If you're not already, feel free to join the Discord and have a chat with some of the people I've picked up from streaming, and I hope to see you all in the next video.